So IoT use cases and M2M applications that we are talking, right? So when we talked about the last one is the environment monitoring. Okay,
Yes.
environment monitoring, especially when we talked about agriculture, okay, and conservation, and as well as some of the pollution control. And most of these industries are more getting into environment monitoring models, right? And these are pretty much regulated. So when these are regulated, and definitely they need to have assured data and as well as assured controls. And that is where actually the IoT, rather IoT, people implementing M2M technology. But even through IoT can achieve it, but there it's not reliable, not secure, and as well as some of the regulatory compliance aspects meeting through IoT is a challenge. So that's the basic reason. Okay, M2M applications, telemetry tracking, and utility management, and as well as the environment monitoring, becoming more and more adopting M2M technology. When it comes to the IoT, more like smart home applications, and as well as the industrial applications and healthcare applications, especially the where we are having the patient care and some of the personalized care applications that they are coming in. These use cases are pretty much with the IoT. Next slide, please. Here I wanted to share a real case study. Okay, and next.
This one?
Next slide. Yeah. So here I want to share the real experience and real case study that we'll be dealing with all the kind of concepts. Actually, so far, whatever I have shared, more like understanding the design principles in the connected devices, and as well as in the connected devices arena, in the industry 4.0 space, IoT and its complementing technology, M2M technology. We try to correlate and see all this is a precursor for this case study. Okay. Unless otherwise they have got all the terminologies understood, and as well as models that have been defined, and as well as the standards defined by our international organization like IETF and other allied international organizations. They are focused more on defining standards for IoT and defining some guidelines and defining some models. Okay, all those aspects we talked so far. It is more like those slides, earlier slides. Initially, it is more like some reading material, understanding the terminology. And next, I try to bring in more like some kind of models in the diagrams. And then I try to correlate and give some kind of comparisons in the subsequent slides. They look like more like notes, but that people have to go through, telling orally and putting and reading, and as well as understanding the context is very important. Till now, whatever the slides, they are more like precursors for understanding the real world data and real world evidence and real world submissions that we are going to do it for the regulators. I think the real case study, and now I am going to share this is going to make difference, and these kind of requirements are going to difference in the connected devices, because in this kind of regulated environments, and there's a combination of IoT models and as well as the M2M models are going to play key roles, because such a kind of example that I am bringing in here is the healthcare example. In the healthcare industry, healthcare industry is vast actually. So when we start with, we will start with pharmaceuticals, biologics, medical devices, and then it comes to the providers, and when it comes to the caregivers and insurance, hospitals, clinics, diagnostics. So many things are there, right? When we look at that spectrum, in that spectrum, the vulnerability is more, and the data that is generated is huge through M2M devices or maybe IoT devices. That is why I have picked up and the recent trends, US FDA and as well as the European regulators and as well as the Asian regulators, they are pretty much looking at this kind of data is really going to add value, because the real insights are not coming from the clinical trials or maybe even after launch of these medical products for the healthcare. They are not sometimes misleading. So they wanted to really correlate in isolation with this real world data and real world evidence, that as an augmented submission to the industry and to the regulators, especially to correlate whether really they are going to add value to the society and make an impact. Okay, example, if I take this real world evidence data reporting to regulators, this is the context I'm taking. In that context, okay, how do we define real world data and real world evidence and RWD and RWE? If you really look at the definition of RWE, okay, leverages both analytics and as well as the data to discover, develop, deliver, and as well as provide new insights on the healthcare interventions. Means this is no more fiction, and no people started utilizing this data as part of the augmented support or the augmented services. Okay, example, if I take randomized clinical trials, this is one of the area. Normally, any of these healthcare products, when they are going to be launched, it will go through the process, the regulatory process, right? US FDA or European regulators or Asian regulators, you'll have to go through phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4 clinical trials. Okay, once it is through, and then even after launching into the market also, there is a post-market surveillance that will happen, right? In the post-market surveillance, okay, the people will be generating data through various kinds of devices, right? Even the consumers also generating some data. Insurance people, they are generating the data. Clinics, that they are generating the data. So, and if you really look at this multi-facet of this data in the multi formats, okay, and all this data is valuable. If we properly organize this data, properly use this data for analytics and get some kind of insights from this data and add value to the regulators, add value to the industry as well, right? Earlier, there are a lot of complexities to the industry to conduct all these trials, okay? And they conduct the trials also in the limited way and they sampling basis, right? That is there even today through the randomized clinical trials. But the real data, the real population, the scale, so is huge, and the data is available. Earlier days, data is not available. Now, data is available through IoT and the M2M technologies. And that data, that real world data, actually, how do we define that real world data is very, very important in this context, in this case study that I am talking, to understand. The term that RWD, real world data, is used to describe healthcare related data that are collected outside the context of randomized clinical trials. Okay. In the randomized clinical trials, anyway, we collect the data that is in a very controlled environment. In the way that we define the protocol and the way we collect the data, the way we analyze the data, the algorithms that we use, the way we make the statistical evidence, and all that will be there in the randomized clinical trials. That is in a very limited population with the sample size that we define. But out of this RCT, this RWD is outside this RCT data, right? And that is the data that we are talking here. The real world data that I am talking in the context of healthcare is apart from RCT data, and I have the RWD data also, and we correlate. And what is this RWD data and data sources? And right side you can see, okay, and all these are the sources. If you can see pharmacies, you can see the insurance, and you can see clinics, hospitals, society, and you can see many of
Did we lose him again?
Srinivas Reddy garu?
hello. Sorry.
Yeah.
There is an.
Are you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay. So these are the data sources. The right side, you can see all these are the examples of the real world data, and that will be connecting. This is available today. Because these definitions are very, very important. Earlier, we tried to understand connected devices and the context we got, the models that we got. Now we are getting into the data, and this data is going to play a key role. In this, connected devices also play a key role, right? And the data sources, each of these data sources have got these connected devices. And the next one is the real world evidence. When I'm talking this real world evidence is what? The insights or the knowledge derived from this real world data through this analysis of this real world data and conducted to respond to a specific research question. Okay, the research question varies from domain to domain. The example, pharmaceutical context is different, biologics context is, medical devices context is there. See, again, it comes to the therapeutic areas, maybe heart diseases or respiratory diseases or cancer, or maybe, if you take any of the recent pandemics, okay, these are context. Okay, so that specific research queries, if we provide some evidence to the randomized clinical trials, that is going to be really value add. So that is the really the regulators are asking for, even industry also seeking for, so that they will not be getting into the complex situations and wasting a lot of their time and money and investing on the infrastructure and all that, because already this data is getting generated through various these data sources. Only thing will have to have appropriate data and the data controls and the guidelines and the standard formats. Actually, the even towards this objective, real world data and real world evidence, regulators also coming with the guidelines, frameworks, and those are implementable for the specific requirements. I think so we are trying to implement these things utilizing the connected devices and the connected devices infrastructure on the internet. So next slide, please. Actually,
this one?
Previous slide.
Previous.
Yeah. So here, further drilling down into the definitions, example analysis. When we are talking about analysis in the real world evidence, right? Advanced analytics methodologies that we are using. So today, AI and machine learning, deep learning, these techniques are evolving. Just having connected devices, just having real world data is not going to really make any difference. If we utilize those connected devices and the data produced by those connected devices with the appropriate analytical algorithms, with the machine learning techniques that we have, both supervised learning and unsupervised learning, right? These techniques pretty much are popular and used in the recent past, because olden days also these algorithms are available. At that point of time, there are no such connected devices, such huge amount of data. And at that point of time, actually, so these algorithms have very less significance. But now these algorithms have supervised learning and unsupervised learning techniques are becoming so popular because of the extent of connected devices, real-time data that is coming in, and as well as the amount of data that is available and the statistical tools that are available. Okay, and this slide emphasizes more in the implementation aspect. Okay, that is coming because of the connected devices and the data produced by the connected devices. Next slide, please. In this slide, actually, so if I'm talking addressing the use of or the uses of real world evidence, why it is valuable. Okay, and each of these stages, actually, the real world evidence influences all aspects of pharma value chain. It's not at one place, right from the research to the approval stage to the final commercialization. In each of these cases, real world evidence data is really, the use cases also pretty much available in each of these areas, research area, and as well as the approval and launching the products. And finally, the commercialization cases, the use case actually. So these are no more fiction, are no more, people will be assuming like in the olden days, because today emerging technologies and the data evolution and as well as the connected devices are facilitating all these use cases in the complete supply chain, the pharma supply chain. Maybe the complete pharma value chain has these connected devices are playing a very key role. Next slide, please. And the recent past, actually, normally we don't go with what industry says, what consumer says, or what research says. We always go with analysts who are proven analysts actually to what they are talking and what is their study and what is their analysis. Gartner is such an example. So they took and analyzed and given some kind of eye and the innovations that are happening towards this real world data and real world evidence. In 2020, we got an award from Gartner in implementing these things and basically see how actually is going to make difference. The traditional or the classical way of doing it, or maybe coming with the latest emerging technologies and ensuring the implementations of these connected devices and the real world data and evidences that we are producing. So this is the evidence that we have. People can use connected devices in the era of Industry 4.0, and there is a huge value chain and pharmaceutical value. Pharma is one of the area or one of the industry that I'm talking about, but in other industries, there is a pretty huge value that we are generating with the connected devices. Why I brought in the pharma industry is the lagging industry, which is really implementing connected devices because of the regulations, because of the hesitation that is there in the pharma industry, and probably because of it is closely connected with the lives. Okay, end of the day, anything that we are doing, okay, it impacts the life. Basically, the patient safety is at most important. Data integrity is at most important, and as well as the quality of any of the products that we are producing, that is going to make huge impact in saving life or maybe taking away life. So that is the basic reason why pharmaceutical industry always lagging behind other industries in implementing connected devices or getting into this kind of emerging technologies is the reasons behind it. But with these case studies, with these applications, with the recent past evidences, okay, we can see even industries like pharmaceutical, they are using connected devices. Next slide, please. So when we talk about connected devices, right? So when this is one thing is going to make difference, ecosystem, right? Whether the ecosystem is available for this or not. Other industries, they may not be much bothered about, but when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, whether the ecosystem is available for adapting such a kind of real world evidence, no, even supporting the clinical trials, or maybe supply chain, or maybe R&D, or during the manufacturing. Okay, so these are pretty much important. The key aspects of RWE ecosystem. In this ecosystem, you can see the data management, especially the data sources and the full data lineage, and as well the data pipelines. They are going to play key role. Okay, those aspects are very important in the ecosystem. And analytics tools, especially the self-service tools, and as well as the interactive tools, and as well as the low-level tools. Okay, I'm bringing the low-level tools are going to play a very key role in this. Okay, very costly softwares like SaaS. Okay, compared to the R programming, Python programming, SQL programming, these are pretty much open, right? And people need not to pay any licensing. People need not to restrict, or there is no kind of. It's more like open source. Open source tools. Open source tools are using pretty much on the open source hardware, right? And when it comes to the proprietary hardware, proprietary software, proprietary application, they're costing a lot. So analytics, so when it comes to the analytics in today's arena, open source has created a huge value as an analytics platform, right? That is coming up, and people started utilizing. In my case study, in this case study, we try to use R programming, Python, and SQL, rather using SAS. Okay, SAS we are using for past 15 to 20 years, but it's even today it's costly because still we can't get away from it. It will be there for more time. Parallelly, we'll be developing these kind of platforms using R programming for the statistical, especially disseminating the data and reporting the data, and having the appropriate reports. And when it comes to Python processing, and as well as some of the comparisons that we do with the other environments, Python is a very simple language, natural language. It's close to the natural language. The SQL database, or maybe JSON databases, and these pretty much will be using the analytics. Means in these four pillars, right? If we see data management is one pillar, analytics is another pillar, access control, you can see the multi-tenant, the cloud environment, multi-tenant models are coming in, and you don't require to put data centers, right? You can have your own data tenant. Okay, so you can hire a tenant-based cloud. Okay, on-premise, or maybe or maybe hybrid, and user provisioning. Okay, the role-based access and all that is possible, and inherited data, especially the permissions and transformed data, and as well as the retains lot of controls. Okay, all these the access control pillar is taken care very well in the cloud and the internet. So in the other industries, the same thing adopting into this architecture. The last one is auditing and monitoring is very important in the regulated environment. Okay, so especially the audit trails. Okay, the data auditing and the systems, and as well as the processes, all this auditing process, the full auditing. Okay, so especially the user actions, the logging each activity, action items, and all that. The comprehensive monitoring, performance, usage, custom actions, and all these are part of the auditing and monitoring pillar. Okay, so these are adding value when we are talking about RWE. All this is possible because of the connected devices on the internet. Okay, next slide, please. So just I wanted to highlight a few points here. The built on a scalable data lake. Okay, basically, what does our system offer? Okay, our system means especially the implementations like this, real world data and real world evidence, and submitting the real world evidence data reporting to the regulators. Okay, is the powerful computing resources are available uh, on the cloud. Okay, handling billions of records, and there is no limit actually. So for power and as well as the data and all that, right? Computational power and all that. When it comes to the complete history of all data updates, that are also available, and no, especially ability to bind specific versions of the data. That is also possible in today's environment. And the complete data traceability is possible. But earlier, the systems are working in silos. There, all these aspects are not possible. But now systems are connected, the interconnected, or maybe they're connected through the devices, right? So next one is the complete data traceability is possible, and the robust data security and controls. Okay, these aspects when we see, okay, today uh, uh, the data lakes, the platforms, and the robustness that we have, and the ability to manage metadata and the reference data, and as well as the master data. All these features, as I'm talking, especially in this slide, they are possible and they're implemented and utilizing in this kind of environment, especially saving millions of dollars. That makes difference, and it is creating a lot of jobs as well. People moving away from the traditional way of doing in the silos, and now people are moving on to the internet, and people are connecting on these connected devices. Okay, on this slide, just I wanted to give the architecture, high level architecture, how actually it works. When I'm talking in the regulated environment and secured and traceable platform environment. Okay, one side I have open sources, means internal sources and open sources. I wanted to integrate onto a single platform. The middle, you can see the data lake. That is where the data that is coming in. Once the data is coming in over there, I can use external collaborators. I can do this through the other internal platforms. This whole thing is in a collaborative model that is happening. Next slide, please. You have moved one slide before, please. Hold on this. Actually, this slide, go. So here we are talking more on the computational aspect, but these are pretty much given or available. Okay, the flexibility and the data lake concepts and analytics and cross platforms. Okay, all these are available. Next slide, please. Yeah, when it comes to the Databricks, the customized platform, this is possible on the fly. Okay, today even we have non-coding platforms also. Drag and drop, and you can bring your own platform overnight. You can bring this platform. The earlier days, it will take months together to plan, or maybe years to plan. And similarly, trials will happen 15 years. Okay, that reduced to 10 years, reduced to 5 years, and even today we are conducting the trials, some of the trials in months. Okay, the example, if you take pandemic situation, we cannot afford to wait for years together. Okay, and so I think so. These are the some of the examples that we creating actually. So how this is possible? Pass through means basically we have open platforms like GitHub integration platforms are there to maintain the version controls, and you have the security platforms to maintain, and as well as you have policies, the security policies you have in place, and all these things are brought into a single platform to fit into our requirement, to fulfill our requirement. Okay, and so next slide, please. Yeah, so here again we'll be bringing the other aspects. Okay, profiling, doing instant profiling that we can do, and we can define the roles and policies, and all this is on the fly we can do because of the availability of the on the fly connected devices, a cloud platform, and as well as the no coding platforms available. And we'll such simple platform that we have developed. Next slide, please. Just I wanted to slide through how it look like. Okay, this is one of the platform. No, just given this Gartner. So when we have demonstrated to Gartner and got these things and shown the value and this is an open platform actually. So when it comes to the pharmaceutical industry, anything that we develop that is in the closed environment, normally it will not get exposed. But somewhere we have to bring in such a kind of concepts to the open platform, understand, and people need to get that knowledge and start implementing that. Actually, so when we presented to the Gartner or maybe to the industry or through the webinars and all that, okay, this is a lot of momentum so gone into this, and we wanted to share these kind of things in the open platforms through these innovations. Okay, and that is what the Gartner Innovation Award for these emerging technologies that you have seen 2020 that we have gotten, right? So next slide, please. So this is a simple, I will slide through. Next slide, please. Mohan Garu, slide is not changing. Are you able to hear me? Hello? Hello?
Let's wait a minute.
Yeah. Just I'm waiting.
It's over?
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, next slide, please.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you really look at these are the slides, I want to quickly scan through how the environment look like, the platform that we talked about, the complete case study used for submitting the real world evidence, data reporting to regulators, and presented to the open environment and Gartner award and all that we were talking. Next slide, please. Just I'm skipping through all these slides, not getting into the details. This is how the platform look like, the final reports. Next slide, please. Yeah. So all these are the simple features and the facilities using the connected devices and the cloud, and as well as the platforms that are available, the open source with the kind of development that we wanted to use with the open source, trying to show it as an example. To bring such a kind of platforms into the industry 4.0 and start implementing the connected devices. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, so next slide. Yeah, so here I wanted to emphasize actually, so why that platform and subsequently going into this open source. When we talk about open source, in this context, I'm trying to compare these three: Python, R programming, and SaaS environment. Actually, so when we talk about all these environments, if we really talk about the history, cost, speed, and ease of learning and data handling, and all these 12 dimensions that I'm looking at, okay, how these evolved and these technologies evolved, and which technology is fast picking up in the connected devices, and as well as the real world data and real world evidence. Okay, that I want to share the few glimpses on this in the subsequent slides. Next slide, please. So this is the ranking that is given, especially when we are talking about these development platforms, R programming and Python, and as well as the SAS. You see, if we were to develop such a kind of platform, earlier we were totally dependent on SAS. Okay, now slowly moving out of the SAS, or maybe keeping the SAS, parallelly we are developing such a kind of environment with the connected devices and using Python and R programming. Okay, and that is going to really add value at the lesser time, lesser cost, and giving a lot of flexibility and giving a lot of features that we talked about for the regulatory submissions. Okay, and this slide, it will talk how SAS is going down and how Python and R programming are picking up, and the job trends, if you really look at what normally the job trends, if you really look at which technology is picking up and which technology is going down. Okay, and this is some of the evidences, open source hardware, open source platforms, and open source applications with the connected devices in the industry 4.0 arena. This is the movement that you can see. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this is all I want to share in the context of connected devices in industry 4.0, and took some of the terms that are going to be used in connected devices, and then in the connected devices arena, major evolving technologies like IoT and M2M, the machine to machine, and the industry Internet of Things. Try to see how these two will complement each other and try to correlate, and then try to apply those concepts in various use cases and applications, and then the real world applications, real world data, real world evidence, and submitting that to the regulators. Okay, and regulatory frameworks are evolving towards this. This as an indication, how actually the connected devices are going to play a very key role in the coming arena, and how internet society is going to play very key role, and especially our allied partners. Example, if you take IETF is playing key role in IoT, and even other international organizations also aligned to internet and the connected devices. Moving forward, how our organization is going to play key role. Definitely, these kind of use cases are going to bring in the multiple industries. I have another very good use case in the agriculture. 75,000 hectares land in Madhya Pradesh, somewhere wasteland we are converting into fertile land, bringing water from dams to pump stations to field. So everywhere we'll be having the outlet management system, which will be using millions of sensors, and supplying the water, and seeing the high soil health condition and environment condition, the command control centers that we state-of-the-art SCADA systems once we talked about. But now slowly we are embarking upon towards internet-enabled systems which will make difference in agriculture. Like healthcare, whatever that we are making difference in agriculture also, we are doing actually the public-private partnership project. Is a very multi-crore big project that is happening from government to the private partners, and social organizations also participating in that, in bringing such a kind of technologies. There we are even using solar power. Actually in the field, the wasteland, deserted lands, you will not be having any power lines, any communication lines. Okay, we are giving solar power and communication through satellites, and even some of the command control centers, they can monitor each and every point with the connected devices well ahead their failure 1 week before, or 10 months, even they sustain years together. This kind of models that we presented and implemented such cases we'll bring in future. One of the agriculture projects, the multi-million project that we are doing, apart from the healthcare case study that we have presented today. And another area that we wanted to know, see how actually we were discussing through our academic hubs. Actually, so these kind of projects, we wanted to demonstrate to the industry through our chapter. I think it's so good to have such a kind of academic hubs across other chapters also. I think I'm really proud to be part of Hyderabad chapter, part of EC, and being inter-society relations responsibility. Definitely, we try to add value in bringing such case studies. Thank you, Mohan Garu. Over to you. If there are any queries and questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, Dr. Srinivas Reddy. It has been an elaborate and informative talk on the use cases of connected devices. And thank you all for joining this webcast. You can write your questions to us, and we'll get back because the time is up now. Thank you, Mr. Jolly, for providing this connectivity. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you, Jolly. Thank you, Mohan Garu. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.